If you want to learn how to make a shit ton of money, this video is for you. So I decided to create a video talking about money and talking about how I got here, because a lot of the times people ask me, how did you get here? How did you go from making $2.60 an hour to someone who has built multiple 6 and 7-figure businesses? And when I started thinking about this, I realized that it came down to one particular thing, and this thing is sales. Your ability to sell is actually one of the most important things that you can keep working on if you want to make a ton of money. Now, if you're watching this and you're like, I have nothing to sell, I'm not an entrepreneur yet, or I don't have a physical business, I don't have an online thing, keep watching, because actually the things that I'm going to be sharing with you is the key to be able to sell yourself, to be able to create more opportunities for yourself, and to open doors that you never really thought you had. So stick around and keep watching. Now, I'm going to be walking you through 9 different sales strategies that I have used over the last decade to, like I said, build multiple companies. We actually grew to $1.8 million in 18 months. I used this to sell a company. And so these are tried and tested sales strategies that I've come up with over the last decade. Now, the first strategy that I'm going to be sharing is actually a strategy that I learned from someone else. Now, I learned this from the top salesperson in the industry. He and his partner are the people who train Tony Robbins' sales team. They work with some of the largest entrepreneurs in the online space. They literally helped a client have a $100 million launch. And we were lucky enough to have dinner with him, to have an intimate sales conversation. And he taught me this one strategy that honestly has just transformed the way we sell. I'm going to be sharing this with you in this video. So, do you want to know what that strategy is? That strategy is context over content. And if you notice, I just did it with you. So rather than just saying the strategy out loud, I provided a lot of context. I reframed myself. I said, strategy that I'm about to share with you, I learned from this guy. He's done this. He's done that. He's helped someone launch $100 million. So when I was saying all of those things, naturally the incline as a human being, this is sales psychology 101, is to lean forward. You're just like, oh, I wonder what she's going to say. Like, this is really interesting. Now, this person, when he told us this, he did the exact same thing. He goes, look, guys, I usually charge $50,000 for an hour to deliver this exact sales training. And this is my ongoing rate, but you guys are cool people, and so I'm going to share it straight away. As soon as he said that, all of us were like leaned in. All of us were like, oh shit, okay, let me grab my piece of paper. And so a lot of the times when people are selling something, they focus on the content. They focus on, what am I saying? Do I have the perfect sales script? Do I have all the sales objections? Do I know this? I'm like, actually, you need to focus on the context. You can say 1 or 2 or 3 sentences that will massively pre-frame you so that people naturally lean in. So that people actually go, okay, this is going to be good. I better pay attention. And so if you take the time to create the context, people are more likely to respond. And this is something that we've seen time and time again. If you notice, before I speak in my video, I go, I've used these 9 sales strategies to grow multiple 6 and 7-figure businesses over the last decade. That naturally pre-frames me as someone who knows what she's talking about, as someone who has actually gone through the experience versus someone who's just regurgitating information on the internet, someone who's actually worked and applied these sales strategies. And so there are so many ways for you to actually pre-frame yourself. So next time you're about to sell something, take the time to pre-frame yourself. Is this something that for example, you've gone to school for? Is this something that you have years of experience doing? Whatever it is, take the time to pre-frame yourself, wrap the context, and then you go drop the content. Then you go, okay, let's go. I'm going to share X, Y, Z. Now, this small thing is so important, but honestly will make so many people lean in and trust you more. Now, I have my remarkable here, and so I'm going to be glancing here because honestly, I was so excited to create this training that I just wrote down a bunch of notes. Now, the second piece the second sales strategy, if you want to learn how to make a ton of money, is conviction. And this is going to be so nuanced because a lot of people think, yeah, I believe in the product. I'm like, no, but do you actually believe? Like, Tom has this saying, he was just like, do we believe that what we are selling is the best thing since sliced bread? And if the answer is no, then how can we make the product super, super awesome? And so we always have this kind of like internal metric that we tell our clients or that we share. And this is whenever we are making clients offers, we're like, if internally we know that we can easily 5x their investment, we're happy to sell this at this price point. What do I mean by this? We have clients who are paying us $30,000, $50,000. And for us, someone asked me, like one of my clients asked me, she was like, how do you sell these high ticket packages? Don't you get nervous about being responsible for their results? And I have two answers to this. The first answer is A, my clients know that I am never responsible for their results because how dare I take that away from them. The only person who is responsible for your results in your life is yourself. If I had a mentor go, yeah, I'm going to be responsible for your results, I'm like, no way. I am the only one who wants that responsibility, which means that I can steer the direction of my business at any given moment. And so the clients that I work with know that. The second thing is, if Tom and I know, if this person invests $30,000, can we help them 3 to 5x their investment? And if the answer is a easy yes, we will sell to them unapologetically. Because like we have clients. So for example, one of our long-term clients, when she started off, she paid us $20,000 and then $30,000. And since then, her business grew from $450,000 to $1.3 million in a year. She has literally, I don't even know how many X's that is. Can you imagine if we never sold to her? If we were shy at selling a product that was like $18,000 or $20,000. And as a result, she wouldn't have reached the success that she would have. Now, I'm not saying that she reached success just because of us. No, she worked her ass off. But I am saying that we were able to sell with her with conviction, to her with conviction, because we believed that we could help her massively grow her business. And so your conviction in whatever it is that you are selling needs to be rock solid. A lot of the times people are afraid to price high. They're afraid, oh, what if this person doesn't buy? What if this? And it all boils down to their conviction. Do they truly believe that they can help the person? If the answer is yes, then you should sell unapologetically. A lot of the times, this is where the disconnect is. There's a lot of people who think that, oh, I don't know if I can sell that much. I don't know if they're going to get value. I don't know if this. I'm like, no. People can sense this. If you are wishy-washy with your conviction, people will be able to sense this. And so if you want to be able to sell packages for $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, you need to have an honest conversation with yourself and go, what is the value that I can bring to this person? And does that equate the value that I am bringing? And if the answer is yes, then you need to sell to that person unapologetically. I say this all the time, we are paid in response to the value that we bring to the marketplace. And people who have a problem, who have a very specific problem that you can solve, they will pay good money for you to help solve this. I invest in my mentors constantly and I pay very good money for them to help solve a very specific problem. Is it to keep me accountable? Is it to help me with my metrics, to help me show up? Whatever it is, I pay a large amount of money for them to solve my problems. But I only do this because they sold to me with conviction. They're like, yeah, easy. I can help you with that. I'm like, great. Here's my money. You take my card. And so your ability to sell with conviction is actually going to be a key driver if you want to make more money in your business. Now, okay, now the third one is you need to learn how to sell like a woman. Now, if you are watching this and you are a woman, fantastic, because this is for you. If you are watching this and you are a dude, you might learn a thing or two. There is a huge difference between feminine sales strategies and masculine sales strategies. Masculine sales strategies is very abrasive, very to the point. Here are your pains, and this is how I'm going to help you, and blah, 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 blah. And that can work, but feminine sales strategy is a little bit more intuitive. Feminine sales strategy is you listening, is you coming to the call, the meeting, whatever it is, with a certain type of energy. And the reason why I say energy is really important is because people can actually feel you before they hear whatever it is you're saying. If you come to a meeting and your presence is confident, your presence is, yes, everyone wants to buy from me, your presence is, I can help this person, that person will feel it. Like we all know that energy is real. Like this is a key fact. You can tell if someone is nervous. You can tell if someone is unsure. You can tell if someone is just like, he's just selling to you because they're following a sales script versus someone who's genuinely interested in you and your problems and helping you. And so dudes usually come and they approach sales experiences with, okay, now this is your problem and how long have you been trying to solve this problem and this and this and this, and it's very in your face. And don't get me wrong, there are times and moments where this works. And we've definitely gone through phases in our businesses where we've led with the urgency, we've led with some of this. But what I found out is for high ticket sales, what I found out, especially selling to women specifically now, is women are more intuitive. We especially now, and this is something that I'm so happy with, is that people aren't just distracted by the big shiny wins. They're not just investing in people because they can see that this person is making a ton of money. They are now a lot more discerning about what they need. They are now a lot more, okay, I want to learn from this mentor because this mentor has the lifestyle that I want. And this is really important, right? And so the energy and how you show up when you are selling is as important as the sales script, is as important as whatever it is that you're selling. And so you need to make sure that you don't have any energy leaks. What do I mean by this? Pouring into yourself first. Pouring into your cup. There were so many times in my business where I feel like I'm too busy and I'm like, I'm going to just work and I'm going to do this. I'm going to skip my workout and I'm not going to eat lunch. And then I realized that all of these were causing energy leaks in my business. All of these were actually stopping me from showing up at my peak top energy. And so now, whenever I'm about to sell something, if I'm doing a live masterclass, if I'm recording a video, if I'm selling on my podcast, whatever it is, I make sure that my energy is top notch. I make sure that I pour into myself first so that other people can feel the energy that I bring to the table. And this is going to be really important. Fourth one. And this is actually something that I see a lot of people don't do enough. And this is called category of one framing. Now, you might have heard this before, but I really want you to think about how you can apply this to you and your business. And like I said, even if you're working a 9-to-5 job, how can you use category of one framing to actually set yourself apart from other people? Now, category of one framing is this is what positions and makes you unique in the market. So for example, there are loads of online mentors out there. There are loads of female coaches, business coaches out there. A unique category of one framing that I always use is I am someone who has built and sold multiple companies. So how I'm going to use this framing is I say things like, I could say something like, Yeah, there's so many online coaches out there who start a coaching business and then they just keep growing that. But actually, you want to learn from a business coach who has actually built different businesses. Because a lot of the times it's great to learn from someone who's done it once, but what about learning from someone who's done it 4 different times? What about learning from someone who's built multiple businesses in 4 different niches? So again, that has set me as a category of 1, because not only have I been doing this for the last decade, I've built multiple businesses in different niches. My coaching business is not my only business. Right now, I run a tech software with my husband. And so that has just put me in a league of my own. And so with you, I want you to think, how can I frame myself or my product as a category of 1? For example, if you are doing nervous system regulation work, you can say something like, oh, for example, I'm going to give an example of one of my clients. She used to be one of the key managers in IKEA, and she's been doing this for 15 years. And she was just like, I used to be one of the most highly paid leaders, managerial leaders in one of the top fastest growing companies in the world. And the lessons that I'm about to share with you are from the 15 years of experience of working and managing different leaders. I'm going to be sharing that with you today. So again, it's very similar to the pre-framing, but you are putting yourself in a category of 1. So when that person who she's selling to, if she's like, okay, well, I'm comparing business coaches, I'm looking for someone to help me with my leadership skills, she has placed herself in a category of 1 because she's like, I've worked with loads of people. I used to be one of the top managers. I have 15 years of experience. And so she has created a category of 1 framing for herself. And so with you, I want you to think, what makes you unique in the market? What sets you apart? How can you actually articulate the value of your work so that you are incomparable to everyone else? Because if you think about it, when people are thinking of buying a product, they are thinking, okay, who should I buy this from? And they are most likely price shopping or looking at different people. But if you instantly put yourself in a category of 1, sets you apart. There are so many business coaches out there for heart-centered leaders. That is my niche. That is where I'm playing with. But all of a sudden, if I create a category of 1 frame for myself and be like, yeah, I've been doing this for over a decade. I've built multiple businesses. This is what I do. People hire me because of that. All of a sudden they're like, oh, then why should I hire the 30-year-old who's just started making money with her first coaching business? I want someone with depth, with experience, with someone who can walk me through the highs and lows of entrepreneurship. Number 5. So again, this is the 5th sales strategy to use if you want to make a ton of money in your business. Number 5 is you need to actually focus on the problem versus the solution. And this is going to be a little nuanced and against what most people say. Now, most people say you need to focus on the solution. You need to, do this. But actually, it starts with knowing the problem. You will infinitely become a better salesperson if you know the very clear problem that you are solving. And the reason why I say this is a lot of the times we get so attached to our solution. We get so attached to my program is amazing. My coaching is incredible. And we do this and do this and do this. We get attached to that. But actually, if you distill it to very, very simple terms, answer the question, what is the problem that I am solving? And if you can't answer that very clearly, then you know that you've built this big solution, but it's not necessarily answering the very clear problem that people are having. If you want to get good at sales, you need to understand what people's problems are so that you can tailor your solution, or you can find out if your solution is even going to help that person. I am so known to actually turn people away from my coaching, from my services, if I don't think that it is the right solution for them. What do I mean by this? I've been working with a client and she's amazing. We've worked together for quite a few months and she was asking about renewal offers. And I actually said, so listen, I said, I love working with you and I think you're going to go far place to really, really far places. You're going to grow this business, but I actually don't think that this is the next move for you. And I go, I'm sure we're going to end up working together again at some capacity, but right now, I think that you need to focus on yourself. You need to focus on strengthening your voice, your mindset, and believing in yourself versus listening to the external forces around you. And I go, I'm not making you a renewal offer because I don't think this is the solution to your problem. I knew what her problem was, and she needed to build self-trust. She needed to build a lot of confidence in her decision making without necessarily leaning on to me. And I knew that if I was just going to sell her a solution, it wasn't actually answering or fixing her problem. And so I literally said no to a ton of money, but I know that at a later point, this person will come back into my world because I acted out of integrity. I have a deep understanding of the problems that people have when they come into our world. And this is why I'm able to create a solution for that person. So I want you to think, what is the problem that I am actually solving? And does my solution actually solve that problem? Because a lot of the times we create things in our heads, we put together a program, we become so attached to whatever it is our solution is that we don't take the time to understand if it is actually meeting a pain point. Now, don't get me wrong, pain point marketing, you still kind of need it because pain point marketing is actually just bringing to light the problems that people have. The difference is bros lean into the pain point marketing and make people feel bad when there's actually a way to activate people. There's actually a way for people to get excited to want to work with you. You know, when I understand people's problems and when I focus on the problems, in my marketing, I'm not, this is you and you need this and you, no. I activate people. I make people feel good. I'm like, this is where we can go. That's one of the key things when you are selling to people, rather than focusing on the pains, focus on where you can take them. Focus on, I understand your problem. This is my solution and this is where we can go. Because when you show that you can complete the equation, I understand your problem. This is how my solution can help you. And this is where we can go. This is what life can look like once you've gone through my solution. People will love you. People will buy whatever you want. If and only if you're able to show this. And so number 5 is focus on the problem and not just the solution. Make sure that you know what people are lying in bed at night thinking. Make sure that you have a deep understanding of the things that are running through their head, a deep understanding of, wow, this is actually something that I need support with in solving. And if you're able to do this, you can sell anything at whatever price point. 6th, authenticity versus aggression. Now, I first heard this from Natalie Dawson, and I first heard her say authenticity versus aggression. I started thinking about this and I realized that this is very much in line with how I operate and how I've built multiple companies. Like I said, the only reason why I've been in this industry for this long, the last decade, the online space, is because I have always operated from a place of integrity. There are people in my world now who have literally been in my world since 2015. And they were like, I first bought your program when you were doing this. And now that you're in coaching, I'm still in your world. And they were just like, because I feel like you are so authentic. You are someone that I want to learn from because I don't think that you are putting yourself in a pedestal. You're so authentic. You're this. And I realized that authenticity over aggression is something that I really value. Now, what do I mean by aggression? It's very similar to pinpoint marketing. I will never make people feel bad about themselves. I will never use this is where you are and this is what you're missing out on if you don't buy from my products. Like, that's not my style. Rather, I lead with authenticity. Authenticity is actually the number one most important frequency in the world. It's a frequency that people can feel. So if you are being 100% authentic, if people can see your intentions, if people can go, oh, this person is actually, she wants my best interest, that person will buy from you. And so what are examples of authenticity versus aggression is when you are honest if things will work or not. Similar to the example that I gave you with my client, I am always like, yes, I think you're the perfect person for this. And if it's not, I say no. There are people who come into my world and they're like, I want to join, it's a 6K investment. I'm ready, a 10K investment. Like, how do I join? And then I ask a few questions to backtrack. And then I realize that this person is actually not ready for that level of support. Or that person is actually will benefit more if they buy a smaller $1,000 program. And what that creates is integrity, trust, and someone who will be in my world for a very long time. I have a client now, and the first time she wanted to join my world, I was just like, I don't think this is the right time for you. And I gave her the reasons why. I explained it. And I go, I'm very sure that at some point we're going to end up working together. But at this particular thing, I was like, I don't think it's a good fit for where you are. I actually think this will be more of a distraction. And I was 100% authentic with that versus trying to just make the sale. And people who are just trying to make the sale, they are clouded by short-term wins versus actually someone who's actually trying to build a brand versus someone who is actually trying to build something so that one person stays in my world for multiple years. And this is how I've built a reputation for myself. This is how I've built multiple companies across different niches. This from this place of being 100% authentic. Now, the seventh sales strategy that I'm going to be talking about is sell through story. Now, if you have been in my world for a while, you will know that story selling is one of my favorite things to do whenever I am actually selling to people. And there's a reason why, but also I'm going to give you some backstory on how I discovered story selling in the first place. Now, I was about 7 or 8 years old when my parents all gathered us around the dinner table. At that time I was 7, I have 2 older sisters, and my parents gathered us around, and my dad goes, I have some important news. He goes, I am taking you all to Disneyland for the summer. He goes like, I'm going to pay for your airfare, your hotel. I'm going to pay for the food. But he goes like, if you want to buy any type of souvenirs, he was just like, you have to pay for it yourself. And at that time, you're like screaming. It was like my big dream. I was like screaming, jumping up and down. I was so excited. And then kind of midway, I just like stopped. I was just like, wait a minute. I was like, I'm 7. I don't have any money. I was like, how am I going to pay for things by myself? And my parents were like, well, figure it out. He was just like, figure out a way to raise money. And so like any child, I literally ran to my room. I grabbed my books and I started like flipping through my books to get different ideas. And I had a couple. I was like, lemonade stand, not enough money, and this. And so I landed on a buy and sell business. And so I decided that every Sunday I was going to go buy these like desserts from this local bake shop, and I was going to sell them around church. And so the very first Sunday, I was so excited. I had these like Sylvanas, which is like it's actually like a Portuguese treat. And so I was selling them around our church. And so that very first Sunday I walk in and I was like really nervous. And then I kind of just like go around to people and I was like, do you want to buy? Do you want to buy? Can you please buy? And I was like this tiny, scrawny 7-year-old. And no one bought. I think I had one sale, and it was the dad of my best friend, and he just took pity on me because no one was buying. And I remember slumping in the backseat of our car, just completely devastated. And I was like, I didn't sell anything. Like, how am I going to raise money for Disneyland? I was so, so upset. And then my dad kind of just like leans to the back and looks at me, and he goes, you need to actually walk in there and tell people why you're selling these desserts. You need to sell them with so much conviction. He didn't say conviction. He was like, you need to sell them like they're the best desserts ever. And so he gave me those two pieces of advice. And I was just like, oh my God. And so I remember I had like a little Lisa Frank notebook where I was writing my inventory. And so I wrote it down. I was like, okay, tell them why and sell like they were delicious. I think I wrote something like that. The next day, I do the exact same thing. I buy my inventory and I go to church, and all of a sudden, I made bank. I started telling people, hi, I'm trying to fund a trip to Disneyland and I'm trying to raise money and this. And I started telling people my why. I started telling people my story. And because of that, I became someone who was selling with a purpose. I became someone who they were intrigued to support me in my journey. And so I went from this random kid who was walking around trying to sell desserts to, oh, that's Anna. She wants to go to Disneyland. How cute that her parents are making her raise money. Okay, let me buy. By the end of that day, I made bank. The next Sunday, I had like a list of customers, and then I started upselling people. I was like, do you want to pre-order for next week? You know, you should buy 2 boxes. I started doing different sales. I think I made like $120, which is a lot of money for a 7-year-old from the Philippines. And I realized that that particular instance helped me uncover how important it is to really sell with story. If you are just selling, if you are just saying, hey, buy this, like, great. But again, why? Why did you become a relationship coach? Why are you helping someone with self-sabotage? Why are you doing this? People want to know the why, and they want to know the story behind it. Because the story, again, similar to first point, is what gives it context. People remember stories. We are wired this way from our caveman days when we would sit around, gathered around a fire, and we would tell each other stories. That is where it comes from. And so you want to understand that people want to follow someone. They want to be entertained. They want to remember something. And so you sharing and selling through story is actually one of the most powerful things that you can do. Making this a special connection with people. I made a connection with people when I shared my why, when I shared why I was doing this. And in return, people were happy to support that. And so learning how to sell with story is honestly one of the key sales strategies that you can easily implement in your business to gain trust, to get people to like, trust, and know you. The eighth sales strategy, if you want to learn how to make a ton of money, is understanding the power of the no's. A lot of the times, people are afraid of the no's, which is why they don't sell. I was watching a video and she was just like, I think that women are actually a lot better at sales than men, except men know how to deal with rejection so much better. Women are afraid of rejection, which actually stops us from putting ourselves out there. So what do I mean by this? I think that if we want to get better at sales, you need to understand that the no's are part of the process. No's, rejection, failure, these are all things that are actually part of the journey. If you want to learn how to make more money, if you want to build a big business, if you want to create more opportunities for yourself and ask for the raise, finally start the business, whatever it is, it starts with dealing with a lot of no's. I gave this example in one of my previous videos. Walt Disney actually went to 300 banks and investors and received 300 no's before someone decided to take a chance on him and invested money so that he can open up Disneyland and Universal. 300 rejections. And then he went on to build a $130 billion industry just from that. Another example that I have here is J.K. Rowling. Before she pitched Harry Potter, she literally went through 12 publishers and received 12 no's. Can you imagine that? She has now sold more than 600 million copies of her books and has a personal net worth of like $1 billion. 12 publishers all know. 300 banks all know. Starbucks. And the reason why I'm glancing again is because I have written some of these down and I wanted to make sure that I give a lot of emphasis on them because it's so important. Starbucks dude went to literally 242 investors. Howard Schultz, 242 investors, and 217 people said no. A lot of the times we don't sell because we are afraid of this no. We're like, oh, but what if no one buys? I'm like, so? I'm like, what if no one buys? Then keep selling. Keep selling. Make the no's a part of the journey. A lot of the times we need to actually get used to the rejection. One of my favorite quotes from Kobe Bryant, and he was just like, failure is a figment of our imaginations, because what it's actually getting us closer to is winning. It's like the more times you fail, the more times you'll win. Why? Because you're taking more chances, you're taking more bets. How will you ever get a yes if you are not willing to face the rejections of the no's? How are you willing to say no one's buying unless you're actually willing to sell and to keep selling when no one is buying? I remember our very, very first webinar that we did. This was years ago when we were selling an online course. And I remember we were there. I think there was like 12 people online. And Tom and I were just selling and selling and selling. And no one bought. Now, other people would have taken that and go, well, maybe I'm not good. Maybe I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe it's time to stop. I don't want to do this again, because the fear of rejection, the fear of people saying no, that's tough. But what did we do? We showed up the next week, and then the next week, and then the next week, and we kept selling until we actually scaled that webinar to $1.8 million in 18 months. Simply because we could sit with a no, simply because we made the no as part of the process. And so every no that we got, we knew it was one thing closer to a yes. One bit closer to someone saying, oh, this sounds like a freaking great idea. This is exactly what I needed. Let me buy your offer. And so if you want to make more money, get used to the no's, get used to the rejections, because that is a part of life. As an entrepreneur, you need to actually develop this like muscle of putting yourself out there, of people might not be responding to it, and that's okay. Because your ability to keep going, your ability to go, all right, well, that didn't work, let me try again, or let me make some tweaks, let me improve this process, and then you keep getting better, that is where you will start winning. But a lot of the times, people get a couple no's and they make it mean something about themselves. Then they actually stop. Then they don't actually put themselves out there for the promotion, for the big opportunity. If you want to make more money, get used to the no's, because this is actually going to be so important and is a huge part of the process. Now, number 9 is understand that selling is a service. Selling is a service. A lot of the times people do not want to sell because they are afraid that it will make them look greedy, that they are afraid that people will think they're only after the money. But if you truly believe in what you are selling, if you truly believe in what you are doing, then you will know that selling is a service, that you will know that this is actually going to help change someone's life. The reason why I can unapologetically sell $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 packages is because I know that the value that I bring in return will change someone's life, will help restructure their business, will help them show up in a way that they never thought was even possible. And that all boils down to me honestly believing that selling is a service. You know, I use this analogy all the time. If someone had the cure for cancer, like I work with, I met this lady at a retreat last year, and she was just like, I was diagnosed with cancer when I was in my early 20s, and everyone was telling me that I needed this chemotherapy and this and this and this. But actually, I spoke to an alternative doctor, and I was able to look for alternative treatments, and I was able to get better without doing XYZ. And I've cut out toxins from my life. I did this, I did that, and she got better because of that. And she's like, I'm so grateful to that doctor who sold to me. That doctor sold to her because he truly believed that that is what she needed. That him selling to her was a freaking service. And she was like, it is not cheap. And she was just like, I had to get loans, I had to do this and do that, but I was able to heal myself and get better when everyone else said that I couldn't. And so that might be a bit of a dramatic metaphor, but if you truly believe that selling is a service, then you will sell unapologetically. Like, I have clients who, help their clients heal their marriages, who help their women become better mothers, better wives, better business people. And because they are doing that, it is this beautiful ripple effect. And they're only able to do that if they are able to sell unapologetically. And so a lot of the times, for you to be able to sell unapologetically, you actually have to get to your root beliefs. What do I mean by this? I had to rewire a lot of beliefs that I had around selling and sales for me to actually show up in my business in a different way. For example, my husband, Tom, he grew up in a setting where he was just like, yeah, selling was considered bad. If someone was selling to you, someone was out to get you. They wanted to one-up you. And so he would pick up the phone and his family would be like, oh, what's that person trying to sell to you? And, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because there is a lot of like online sales, especially like phone sales back then in the UK. But we had to fundamentally shift our belief around selling and change our perspective around this. And now I love being sold to. Like I say to people all the time, I'm like, sell to me. I love being sold to because I know that that person has my best interest. And I know that that person has an answer to a problem that I have. Because that's what selling is. People have a problem and you're telling them, hey, I got a solution. I could help you with that. And if you don't say it, right? But you're not actually selling, you're not actually having the conviction to show up in your life and your business is actually stopping you from impacting someone's life. And so these 9 different strategies, honestly, have shifted something massive in my life and has allowed me to make a ton of money. And if you start applying this to your life, if you start weaving this into your daily practices on how you show up online, maybe weave in some of these practices at work, whatever it is, I will guarantee that opportunities will arise. I will guarantee that you will make more money because you are actually going out there and selling. A lot of people think that you're selling by just creating the content. No, you need to be selling every single day if you truly believe that your work can impact someone's life. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any comments, like, comment, subscribe. I'd love to hear from you. Which particular sales strategy stood out to you the most? And I'll see you in the next video.